everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day. So I've been thinking, and this is a thought that I've had many times before, but I was like, I don't have things to film about, so let me talk about this. And is this topic worthy of a video? No, but here we are. I want to talk about this unspoken review window where you have had to read the book between this certain time frame, and past that time frame, it's just kind of impossible to review it. This is a big frustration for me particularly because I often will read a book and then I won't have the time to film, or it's either that or maybe more likely, I'm too lazy to take good notes right after finishing. And so by the time that I finally have like my camera ready to go, or I found a place to film, or it's quiet, whatever, I have nothing to work off of anymore. Honestly, it really boils down to me being lazy, which, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, is the root to a lot of my problems. But my reviewing process is like, I read a book, sometimes I'll take notes while I'm reading, but sometimes I won't. And then after I finish the book, I'll go back and take diligent notes on what I would like to mention in a review, / my reactions to certain plot points or things like that. And if I do that, if I take notes right after reading, which I usually do, then it's perfect no matter how long it takes me to finally find a time to film. As long as I have those notes to refer back to, I'm good, I'm golden. Or there are times when you're reading while you're traveling and you don't really have the time to sit down and go through the book again because you're too busy, you know, seeing sights and eating foods and whatever. Or alternatively, sometimes you read a book and then you read a book directly after that, and then the second book kind of muddles your opinions on the first book, and then you're left with this jumble of, how did I feel exactly? I don't know, you kind of just have like a vague impression of the books that you read. And that's the situation that I'm finding myself in right now. A combination of the two. I read some books consecutively, but I was also reading them while I was traveling, and now I'm left with no notes to rely upon. And it's not like this is the first time it's happened. It happens all the time. And I haven't posted a review on this channel since Children of Blood and Bone, which by the way was a fantastic book. And it's not that I haven't read books since then. I have. What makes it a little worse is that I got my Nook stolen at the airport, either the Barcelona airport or the Prague airport, somewhere. And a lot of times on my Nook I'll highlight things that I want to talk about, or I'll write notes in my Nook, and so those are just all lost. But for those who are curious, I'm going to run through some books that I read since Children of Blood and Bone and give my overall impression of them, because I can't give any more detail than that. So I think I'm going to start this new series of videos for whenever it's applicable, called Missing the Review Window, for wanting to talk about books that I missed the review window for, where I have like enough of an impression to say a couple of things about it, but definitely not enough to do a review on it. And I guess that's kind of what wrap-ups are for too, but I feel like even wrap-ups are too detailed for the level of garbage that my memory is. So Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I have wanted to read this book, especially because of the movie, which I am very excited to see. And honestly, I would have put it off longer, except my best friend Agatha read it so fast in like a couple of days, and she was like, Sophia, read it, let's talk about it. And those are the best kinds of friends, you know, the ones who read books and are like, hey, read it so we can talk about it. So I read it, and it took me a long time to get through because I did not enjoy this book. I thought it was so irritating. I thought it was poorly written. The characters felt so one-dimensional. I remember the relationships felt so flat. Like, we're supposed to root for the main couple, which is Rachel and I think his name is Nick, but you're not really given any reason to root for them. I didn't feel the chemistry between them. I didn't really care if Rachel was hated by Nick's family. There was just no personal investment for me. The story is just so frivolous and ridiculous, and like sometimes that's fun, you know? Like sometimes it's fun to follow really, really elite people. I remember in high school, for example, I loved Gossip Girl. Even though I knew those characters were so vapid and privileged, I still felt investment in it, and I just did not feel that for Crazy Rich Asians. On the contrary, I know people who did enjoy it. For example, Marinés from My Name is Marinés. She liked it, and she always has fantastic judgment of books, but personally I was not that into it. Next, I read a couple of Casey West's books. Casey West, first, writes like a demon. She just publishes books left and right every season. I don't know how she does it, but she does. It's that combined with the fact that none of the books are really spectacular that makes them all kind of blur together in my head. So I read two. I read Listen to Your Heart and Love, Life, and the List. It took me a second to remember what Listen to Your Heart was even about, which is odd because that's the one I liked better of the two. I'll talk about Love, Life, and the List first. Love, Life, and the List is about this girl who's in love with her best friend and is an artist. And the manager of the art museum she works at says that her art doesn't really have any heart to it, and so she makes a list of things to do to give her more life experience so that she can draw on more things when she's making her art. This book was just you know, it was like eating low-fat pudding. Pudding is already not that great of a dessert, and then it's low-fat, which makes it worse. It's fine, but it's just not really good. For me, it's really hard to enjoy a YA novel if I don't understand why you're attracted to this love interest, or vice versa, if I don't understand why the love interest is attracted to the main character. It was the former in this case. Like, the main character's best friend that she's in love with is just trash. He's not that great. I was like, dude, you could do so much better. Like, why are you wasting time on this kid? It was cute. There were some good moments like all of Casey West's books, but this one is definitely on the bottom of the list of her books that I read. Listen to Your Heart, I remember now after looking at their Goodreads page. It's about a radio show, and the main character gives advice on this radio show, and there's a person who calls in for love advice, and she thinks she knows who it is. It's very fun. This one is a really, really fun book. I remember I really enjoyed it. I remember I really enjoyed that the love interest is a person of color. The love interest is Latino. The best friend is, I can't quite remember. I want to say Polynesian, but that might be a complete lie, and I'm really sorry. Like I said, just vague impressions. Whatever is left. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here. But yeah, I remember I enjoyed Listen to Your Heart a lot more than I enjoyed Love Life in the List. Finally, the last book I want to talk about is Save the Date by Morgan Matson. This book came out in June. I love Morgan Matson, you guys. I love Morgan Matson. So it was no question that when this book came out, I was going to buy it immediately. And I did on my Nook because it came out while I was in Spain and I wasn't about to buy the physical book in Spain. Anyways, that's a tangent. This book is about a girl named Charlie whose older sister is getting married, and so it's kind of like a huge family reunion, and she really misses when her family used to be together all the time because she's the youngest child, everyone's an adult or off in college, so everyone's coming together to prepare for this wedding, and literally everything that could go wrong goes wrong. Murphy's Law. I remember I enjoyed this one, but not as much as I enjoyed Since You've Been Gone. Since You've Been Gone, I think, has just been the pinnacle of Matson's books so far. That one is just basically flawless to me. The one that came out before Save the Date. Why is my memory so bad? I can picture the Unexpected Everything. That's what it is. I was gonna say, I can picture her walking the dogs. The Unexpected Everything I thought was fine. And similarly, Save the Date I thought was fine. It just made me really anxious reading it because everything was going wrong and it was so frustrating. Kind of like in Love Life and the List, the character that Charlie likes for so long of the book is just not worth the time at all. There's so many better characters to spend your time wanting, Charlie. Like, this kid is not worth it. But alas, the family dynamic, as usual, is perfectly written. Morgan Matson is so talented. She excels at writing great family dynamics. Save the Date was a good book. It just wasn't my favorite Matson book. I kind of feel bad comparing each of her new releases to Since You've Been Gone, but I really can't help it. Since You've Been Gone was so good to me. So those are 4 books that I read that you won't get full reviews of because my memory is just not up to the task. Thanks for tuning in to this first episode of Missing the Review Window. That's not catchy at all. I'm still gonna roll with it. The first episode of Missing the Review Window. Here's the window. That was me. And this is me signing off. What am I doing? Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for watching. I hope y'all have a fantastic day and happy reading. Bye!